from 1995 to 1999. Two-time captain. Very good basketball player for the Huskers. His daughter, Alexis, plays for the women who fell today to Minnesota, 62-58. A tough loss on the road for Amy Williams and company. Busy show today. We're going to talk a lot about the portal in hour number 2. Brian Munson, what do I need to do? Just tell me. Tell me what
Push number 3 right over there.
Okay. Because we're the only
ones.
We're the only ones really listening to each other. So you can just tell me what to do when things are happening in the studio, because I forget them all the time. I'm running the board and doing the show with Mike Melby. Of course, we do a show called Husker Rewind every Sunday from 5 to 7. We will have Brian Munson of Husker Online to talk about a big week for commits. Over the last couple of weeks, Nebraska has gone 6 for 6 in the portal.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good last 10 days.
Yeah. You think Dante Dowdell is the best commit, and I wouldn't argue with that. I might argue Jamal Banks, the wide receiver from Wake Forest. I think that Dylan Raiola would appreciate guys to pass to, and he would be one of those guys. Isaiah Naor was one of them. We've already talked about those guys. They did get this week Micah Mazuka. Is it Mazuka?
Yep.
6'5", 325 pounds, a transfer from Florida. Stephen Thompson, who played for Tony White at Syracuse, he transferred in and I think is officially in the boat via NIL. So we'll see. 6 for 6 is pretty good. They've done really well. Matt Rule has said that they won't be really aggressive as far as the numbers are concerned, but they'll be very targeted, very specific, and that's kind of what they've done.
I think he said, hey, if we can bring in a guy that's going to be an impact guy and make a difference, we're going to bring him in if we can.
And it doesn't sound like they're done. We'll talk about this with Brian Munson, but Dylan Chrisley is his name. He's from Glendale, Arizona, played for Maricopa Junior College. 6'1", 275, allegedly runs a 4.48 40. I don't know how you could be 275 and run a 4.48 40, but Nebraska, we'll talk to Brian about him, and he sounds like a decent defensive line possibility for Nebraska. They lost Carlin Jones, who was committed and then decommitted. What did he choose? I think it was USC. He ended up, Carlin Jones,
yep.
4-star defensive lineman. So we'll talk about the portal quite a bit. Nebraska falling to Iowa, disappointing loss. But I do not have, since we are on the stream, I don't know how to do the opening, how to play it. So let's just get to the opening kickoff.
Yes, indeedy do. It's time for the opening kickoff.
I kind of like this version better. Here's
all
Mike
right.
Melby.
All righty. It is a loaded kickoff. We'll go to kind of the biggest story of the week for Nebraska athletics. Husker Hoops knocks off number 1 Purdue, 88-72. First time they had knocked off a number 1 team since 1982. Then they left their effort on the defensive side of the floor on the bus in Iowa City, and their hot shooting from distance in conference came to an end in a 94-76 blowout loss to a very average Iowa team. Somebody said that's still going to be a quad 1 loss, and I'm like, really? I don't think Iowa's going to be a quad 1 loss. I think it's going to be a quad 2 and possibly even quad 3 loss.
Although Iowa's played really well at home this year, and they've won 5 of their last 6. Their only loss in the last 6 games has been to Wisconsin, who is the hottest team in the Big Ten.
They are, and Nebraska plays really good at home and really bad on the road. Yeah, they shot 15.
And Iowa plays really well on the home.
Yeah. So Nebraska shoots 15.4%, 4 of 26 from 3. A lot of those were uncontested, too. It could be a loss that does hurt Nebraska NCAA tournament selection time. We'll see. They are on the road at Rutgers, and Rutgers got spanked today up in East Lansing at the Breslin Center by Michigan State.
Michigan State has not played well this year. They're 2-4 in conference play.
I think 3-4 after them today, but
I think they were 1-4 coming into today's game.
Okay,
so they're 2-4 now. I think they've struggled in conference play and lost to Northwestern big time earlier this week.
Yeah, I still think Northwestern, and that's Nebraska's next
really
home
good.
Game. Yeah. Nebraska's going to have their hands full. Husker ladies sit at 12-5 and 4-2 in the conference after a 56-48 win Thursday at PBA. Then today they got I'm going to call it they mismanaged the end of the third quarter, and that mismanagement of time allowed Minnesota to score 5 points. Nebraska loses 62-58. Do the math. Alexis Markowski led the way, though, 17-14. Speaking of Alexis Markowski, her dad will be joining us in just about, I'd say, maybe 15 minutes or so. Matt Rule and the football team picked up what looked to be some very impactful transfers in the portal in the last 10 days. Former Oregon running back Dante Dowdell, January 6th, commits to Nebraska. January 10th, it's offensive lineman Micah Mazuka from Florida. Then on the 11th, both Jamal Banks and Stephon Thompson, wide receiver Banks, Thompson, a linebacker commit from Wake Forest and Syracuse. And then kind of some interesting news. And I want to ask Brian Munson about this. This just kind of came out. 2026 #1 offensive tackle in the country, Jackson Cantwell, is going to be in town next weekend for Junior Day. That's pretty big, as well as the fact
he's big.
That this
6'7", 300 plus.
And this will be his 3rd visit to campus. So that's pretty important. Some kind of literally breaking news in the last couple of hours. Chubba Purdy headed to San Jose State. He's going to hang out with Tim Miles.
Does he know the way to San Jose?
I believe he does. He went and took an online course, figured out how to get there.
All right.
And now he's going to play for the Spartans. Him and Tim Miles are going to go hang out. Miles a little disappointing this year. They went 21-14 last year, got to the CBI.
He had that great first year.
Yeah, now they're 8-9 this year, and they look like they may have taken a step back.
In his defense, though, that was considered maybe the worst job in Division I basketball or football.
Yeah,
for that matter. In Division I, it was considered terrible.
Chubba gets to go have some fun at San Jose State. Yeah. So now the coaching carousel. Let's talk about this. Bill Belichick out at New England. Gerard Mayo named the head coach for Robert Kraft and the Patriots. I'm making the call right now. My Cowboys are getting their ass kicked, and I'm okay with it because I didn't expect much. I'm not been a big Mike McCarthy fan. I'm not a Dak Prescott fan. I hate Jerry Jones, but I'm still a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
I think McCarthy gets blown out after the game, and I think Bill Belichick will be named head coach of the Cowboys.
What is it about the Cowboys in recent years since Jerry Jones, or since back in the day of Jimmy Johnson? What's happened with, you just say the word playoffs and they melt?
I don't know. Maybe it was the Frank Solich curse that hit Nebraska that hopefully has now been lifted, and maybe there's something going on there with the Jimmy Johnson curse. And
what was their last great team? Do you remember?
What was it, 98 or 99?
Because they every year it's like clockwork. You think
97.
You think this is going to be the year. Oh, they're loaded. This is going to be the year, and then they get to the playoffs and they just fall apart.
Yeah, continually underperform. I'm used to it.
You're not even mad.
Not really. University of Alabama has hired Kalen DeBoer from Washington to replace Nick Saban. If I'm a Bama fan, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic, but at the same time, I would have felt like Steve Sarkisian or Lane Kiffin would have been a little bit better fit. My guess is, though, that one of those two is going to be the head coach of Alabama by the start of the 2027 season. I don't know that Kalen DeBoer winds up being very successful. And this just announced within the last 5 minutes that I know of, maybe 10. Former Arizona head coach Jed Fish is now the head coach at Washington.
Wow. They were talking about Grubb, and then Grubb joined DeBoer at Alabama. Also announced earlier today, Isaiah Bond, the #1 wide receiver at Alabama, is transferring to Texas. Called it a business decision. So he's lost his best player, maybe, arguably. But I think DeBoer will do well. He's not known as a great recruiter. That's the thing I would worry. I mean, it's like they always say, it's the toughest thing is to try to replace a legend. It's never happened. Tom Osborne did it after Bob Devaney, but it took Tom Osborne 20 years to succeed. And there have been very few examples of replacing a legend and doing really well.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Off the Sartor Heyman text line, Walt Donnelly asked, is Frosty going to be a candidate at Arizona? I don't know.
Do you think he's back in it within the next 4 years? What Frosty should do is what they're saying that Dana Holgerson is doing. You come back, either you're a quarterback's coach or an analyst, or do something, get away from it for a couple of years and then come back, take a gig that's not the head coaching gig.
If I'm an AD at a school and I hire Scott Frost knowing everything that there is to know about his 5 years at Nebraska, I think that's a bad AD.
I wouldn't have.
He needs to prove himself as a coordinator and that he really wants to coach football and not just enjoy being a football coach away from the stadium.
Would you have a problem hiring him as a coordinator or a wide receiver coach?
I would. I think most Nebraska fans would, just because there's such disdain for him and the way he did everything here. But
like, if you told me he's coming back right now and he's the quarterback's coach, and he didn't have a history at Nebraska, I'd be all in.
Yeah. But he does have a history at Nebraska. It's a very bad history at Nebraska.
It's a terrible history at Nebraska.
And I mean, I think he should be a coordinator somewhere. I think he's a better coordinator than a head coach. And if he's ever going to be a
agree.
head coach again, I don't think he's a Power 5 level head coach.
He was great at Oregon.
A Group of 5 level head coach.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, he could prove us all wrong too.
He was
I
great
don't
at
know.
Central Florida, where you didn't have to recruit like you have to recruit at Nebraska, and he was great at Oregon.
Yeah,
but since then he's been terrible.
Yeah.
He's not a head coach.
Who's going to be the head coach of the San Diego Los Angeles Chargers? Will it be Jim Harbaugh? Because the Chargers are the first ones to talk to Harbaugh, and there is a list of teams that are going to talk.
Right?
Oh, he's got to be.
He's not going to stay.
Absolutely has to be gone.
Because and what makes me think he's gone is J.J. McCarthy's gone. Just announced it today.
Yeah, so did Blake Corum did too.
Blake Corum's gone. Those guys must have been told by Harbaugh, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
You can stay if you want to, but I'm jumping off the boat.
Worst kept secret in college football.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that they cheat. Allie Batenhorst jumped in the portal this last week. I'm curious, does she go to Creighton even though Baylor Shireman and her boyfriend is going to be gone from Creighton next year? I don't know. It'd be interesting.
He can come visit from the NBA. Do you think he's an NBA player?
Shireman, I'll tell you what, with his 3-point prowess and size, I think he gets a shot. I really do.
He's not the most athletically gifted guy, but he's really highly skilled. I wish he would have come to Nebraska, but I think I'm happy for Batenhorst, and they can still date. He doesn't have to be there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Laylo Blackwell has jumped from the portal to the volleyball team here at Nebraska. The middle blocker played at San Diego last season, so she kind of fills the void that Maggie Mendelson left as a third middle blocker to join Andy Jackson and Becca Allen.
Do you mind if we have a quick volleyball conversation?
I think we should.
Because I talked to John Baylor on the phone today. We talked about some other stuff going on. And so I didn't lose the opportunity to talk about volleyball.
Yeah.
And he's always willing to do it. He's a great guy. He thinks it's a great pickup, Layla Blackwell. He told me that volleyball in college volleyball is getting to the point where you've got 3 teams right now. You've got Wisconsin, Texas, and Nebraska with players on that roster. The backups could all be first team all conference anywhere they decided to go.
Yeah.
Coach Cook took a lot of crap after that Texas match by criticizing Texas a little bit for loading up on, superstars. And Nebraska's done that a little bit. But I don't think
there's a difference between loading up and filling a need.
Right. And I think that's what Nebraska has done. Now, they did that with Landfill as well.
Yeah.
Who's coming from Minnesota. So it's not just one this year. It'll
2. Be 3. But this will be the first time in John Cook's career that he will have 3 players that were transfers in to the program on the roster.
He did say this. Carolyn Juravicius would have been a 4-time All-American at Nebraska. He said that she was that good and was having an amazing offseason. She's going to Penn State. That's where Maggie Mendelson is going as well to play basketball and volleyball. I don't know if Landfill is Juravicius, but she's really, really good. She's been player of the year of the conference.
That's my point. But the way Caroline Juravicius was handled by the coaching staff really makes me scratch my head.
Yeah.
How do you decide for a player in front of 93,000 people without having any conversations with them that they are going to redshirt?
I think he said, that is John Baylor, that this was a mutual decision by the family and Juravicius that we're going to redshirt you.
But that's not what Jalen Reyes has said publicly.
Yeah. I don't know.
Jalen Reyes said that he went to Cook when Cook tried to put Juravicius into the game at the stadium. And he said, hey, she told me today that she's going to be, her major is going to make her be here for 5 years. Let's redshirt her. And then we have her for 5 years.
Yeah.
So to me, now granted, it may have been a mutual decision after that, but to not have that decision and not allow her to play in front of 93,000 people without her knowing why, when I heard about it, read about it, it didn't sit well with me, and it sure as hell wouldn't have sat well with me if I was her dad.
Well, and by the way, her dad is Joe Juravicius, who played for the Giants back in the day, was a really good wide receiver in the NFL, played for a long time in the NFL. It's in the blood. The athleticism is definitely in that. And it's not that it's going to kill Nebraska. No. I mean, they traded Juravicius for Landfill. So they're talking to Landfair. I'm sorry. She's really, really good. And they're both really good. Who's better? I don't know. Landfair's farther along in her career.
Was one of them's been a Big Ten Player of the Year, and the other one hasn't played a college match yet.
Right. So there you go. Nebraska's going to be fine, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. A couple other quick things to get to. Frank Solich has been named a member of the 2024 College Football Hall of Fame class. He was 173 and 101 over 22 seasons at Nebraska and the University of Ohio. NFL playoffs are underway. Houston and Kansas City advanced yesterday. Green Bay is going to kick my Cowboys' ass, and that'll be that. And then a huge shout-out to a guy that probably not many know, but I'm a huge sprint car fan, and the biggest midget race on the planet every single year is the Chili Bowl down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Logan Seavey won for the second straight year. This is Logan Seavey's year, 2023. This is his highlights. He won the Chili Bowl, which is the biggest midget race on the planet. He won the 2023 Indiana Midget Sprint or Indiana Midget Week. He won the USAC Midget Championship, the USAC Four Crown National Sweep, and he's the USAC Silver Crown champion.
Wow.
Oh, and he just won the 2024 Chili Bowl down in Tulsa.
You just say Chili Bowl, and it makes me want chili.
Well, and I finally learned
you
why.
make really good chili. I make decent chili.
Thank you. I finally learned why they call it the Chili Bowl, too.
Why do they call it the Chili Bowl?
Ultimately, there was a restaurant in Tulsa that was called the Chili Bowl that made chili, and they actually had a whole boatload of products.
Right.
And when Emmett Hahn, who started the Chili Bowl, decided to do this, him and the owner, Barry Hill, I can't remember his first name, were kind of the co-promoters of that first one. They needed a sponsor, and Barry Hill goes, well, let's just use my restaurant, the Chili Bowl. And they've just kept the name forever.
Do you have
38 years.
A favorite chili? Is it yours? Is your favorite chili your chili?
It kind of is.
Yeah, you make really good chili. I make
Thanks.
decent chili. I believe it or not, and this is not selling out, I like Wendy's chili. I think for some reason they make really, really good chili.
Yeah.
I have to spice it up, though. I mean, whoever makes the chili, I'm adding Tabasco galore. By the way, it's chilly weather. It's so cold outside. And I would advise, don't drive if you don't have to. Just driving down here was a nightmare.
Yeah, the two people that were at the corner at 10th and...
they were hugging each other. When I drove by, they were like, are you alive? I'm alive. Are you alive? And they were hugging each other. It was, and I don't think they were going fast because I didn't see anybody driving downtown that was driving erratically. It's just crazy slick.
Yeah, 10th and Q right before, or 10th and P. As we kind of came to the building today, there was a little fender bender there. So if you're going north on 10th Street right now, I'm guessing they're probably close to having it cleaned up, but it was down to one lane.
Yeah.
So
anything else?
No, I think I covered the one or two things that we
covered
had.
this entire segment with the opening kick.
But there's so much going on.
Well, and speaking of stuff going on, the NFL playoffs are going on, and the Cowboys are driving a little bit. I mean, they scored that touchdown right before half to make it 27-7. And with 12:54 left to go in the third quarter, this thing's not over. If the Cowboys could get another score right now, then maybe you're not screaming for Bill Belichick by the end of this game.
And then maybe if their defense could cover someone. I mean, Jared Love's been brilliant. He really has. Passes off the back foot. His touch has been fantastic.
He's been fantastic, but the second half of this year, he's been really good.
Jordan. But he's throwing to receivers who are wide open.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, the Cowboys, again, I think there must be something about that word playoff. They hear it, and they just panic. That's what happens, I think, every time.
As a Cowboys fan, I hear it, and I go, oh, they're going to lose.
Well, you're right. You're pretty much right every time you say that with the Cowboys. We are just on the stream today, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a nice swim. We'll be swimming for 2 hours in the stream. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. We've got Andy Markowski. We've never had him on this show. No. I've had him on the Gaskins and Stevens show like years and years ago. I think he was on with Happer and myself as well. Two-time captain for Nebraska, played under Danny Nee. Danny Nee is getting honored next or 2 weekends ago from now. Is it? I guess it's against Northwestern on the 20th. Is that next weekend or the weekend?
No,
after?
It's next Saturday.
It's next Saturday. Danny Nee will be in town. I want to hear some Danny Nee stories.
I want Danny Nee to come knock on the window next Sunday afternoon and say, hey, let me in. I got a story to tell.
Do you remember Danny Nee coming when we both worked at Broadcast House?
Yep.
It was the Danny Nee show. I don't know. It was Monday nights or whenever it was.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can say this on the radio, and Danny would admit to it. He would pull into the parking lot at Broadcast House at 44th and O, and he would get out with a six-pack. And I remember seeing him upstairs. I'd go, Danny's here. Danny's here. And he'd walk in. He'd be throwing out beer. It was He never drank it on the air. I don't think he ever drank it on the air.
Yeah, neither did we.
He was the best. I just miss Danny Nee every day of my life.
But the flip side, the guy that replaced him was one of the nicest human beings on the planet. Barry Collier would call in prior to the show.
That's right.
And he would ask what we wanted to eat, and he'd bring enough food for like 37 people.
He's the best guy.
Yeah.
He's the best guy ever.
Oh, you guys want Val's? Not a problem.
It
And
didn't
he'd
work
show
out
up
for
with
Barry
14
Collier
pizzas.
coaching like
No.
it did for Danny Nee, but they were both really, really good guys. Let's get to break. By the way, different vocabulary. Danny had a different vocabulary than Barry Collier did.
I'm not sure Barry knew some of the words that Danny used.
No, nobody knows the words that Danny knew. Let's get to break. Come back with more. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens.
Shopping for new flooring is different today. Getting your questions answered, making the right selection, getting the best value, and installed quickly and professionally. Visit ostreetcarpet.com or shop our store. We'll answer all your questions and help you make the right choice. You'll be enjoying your new floor in just days for less than you'd pay elsewhere. Carpet, vinyl, wood, laminate, tile, and area rugs. We've got it all.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Get all of your favorite restaurants delivered with VenueDelivered.com. One place for ordering delicious appetizers, refreshing salads, hot entrees, fresh sandwiches, and more. From Venue Restaurant and Lounge, Piedmont Bistro, and all Lincoln Good Sense Subs locations. Download our phone app to earn rewards on all of your carryout and delivery orders. Available on Apple and Android, just search for the Pillar Restaurants app. That's the Pillar Restaurants app. Download today.
Warning, this ad will use the F word often, so listen at your own risk. Family fun, fun with friends, freedom from fuel, free Yeti cooler, free driveway delivery. Hey, this is Carl from Nebraska Golf Carts and Price Right Auto, and we have the all-electric Bentelli Fun Carts, and they are a blast. Plenty of fun colors, and these street-legal carts come in both 4 and 6 passenger. Tell us you heard us on the ticket and get a free Yeti cooler with your purchase. Hurry, supply is limited. Check them out at 1235 West O in Lincoln or NebraskaGolfCarts.com.
You don't think about your roof very often, but you should never take it for granted. Roofing Service Company takes every measure to provide you with the highest quality roofing solution. Whether it's a new roof installation, roof repair, or a re-roofing project, their overall goal is to provide you with a pleasant experience and a long-lasting roof. If you have a need for siding or gutters, they're your place too. Visit roofingservicecompany.com for more info today.
Repeat after me. I will not touch the fuse box.
I will probably not touch the fuse box.
Sip, do you remember what happened last time?
Yeah, I remember.
What happened?
Half of the city block lost power.
And?
My chicken condo went haywire.
That's right. The chickens ran wild. So what do we do instead?
Call Joe at Ambition Electric and let him handle everything. Look, saved on speed dial.
Ambition Electric, 402-217-3415, or online at ambitionelectric.com.
Join Planet Fitness now and get the PF Black Card for only $24.99 a month. You'll enjoy an upgraded experience with tons of perks.
Like access to more than 2,000 locations worldwide?
Yep.
And massage chairs?
Yes.
Can I bring a friend every time?
Sure.
Can my friend be a horse?
Nay. Sorry. Get the PF Black Card and feel fit-tacular. Only $24.99 a month. Our most popular membership, the PF Black Card, is your ticket to getting all the perks. Join today. See Club for details.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby, Husker Rewind every Sunday, 5 to 7. Just on the stream today because of the NFL. Packers playing the Cowboys 27-7. Looked like the Cowboys are driving. I saw a flag. I don't know what happened on that.
It was an attempted field goal. I know that.
Attempted field goal.
Yeah, because Dak Prescott sucks. Yes, I'm a Cowboys fan too.
You just don't have a lot of guys. Were you a Tony Romo fan?
Oh, yeah. Love Tony.
So you like Tony Romo,
Yeah.
but you're just not a Dak fan.
No, never have been.
Huh. I would take him over any of my Vikings quarterback. Kirk Cousins actually was decent over the last couple of years. Definitely. You know who was decent? And in fact, really good? All of those Danny Nee teams back in the 90s. They were really, really good. I want to get back to those teams because they were going to NCAA tournaments on a regular basis. One of the guys that played on those teams, Andy Markowski was on Danny Nee's teams. In fact, the two-time captain from, I believe, 97 to 99 or 98 and 99. Hi, Andy. How are you?
Doing good, fellas.
Good. I'm sure you watched a little Nebraska basketball Friday night. It did not go well. The Huskers fall on the road to Iowa. And it's another night where they didn't seem to show up with a lot of intensity. What did you see while watching that game?
Yeah, certainly defensively, I thought that game and maybe the Creighton game were the two games where they were really out of sorts. I thought Iowa put a lot of pressure on them with the ability to run motion offense, shoot it and score it from a lot of different positions, which, is hard for us to guard. We tend to overly, double the post and rotate, and we just seem to be out of sorts. And, I think part of that is, we were coming off a big win, and that's always hard. You emotionally you're at the top of the mountain, and then you've got to be able to go on the road. And Iowa had 6 days of prep time, which I love the Big Ten network, but it does create some really strange scenarios where one team could be off for 5 or 6 days, where you're coming off a short turnaround, which I think is always hard for the team on less prep. And give Iowa credit. I thought they played with a lot of confidence, made a lot of shots, and made Nebraska look out of sorts.
Joining us on the Allo VIP line is former Nebraska captain, two-time captain, three-time Big 12 academic first team as well. VIP line brought to you by Allo Fiber, where they understand the importance of exceptional service with local heart. Andy, I want to ask you about the quick little presser that Josiah Allick gave afterwards. One of the comments that stood out to me was that while things were not going well, he noticed a couple of his teammates became unapproachable. He said, I'm not going to call them out, but I've got to do a better job, et cetera, et cetera. You were a captain. You were a leader. You were a guy that when things went sideways, everyone looked to. How do you handle it when you've got some teammates that just seem to be so down and out that it affects their effort?
Yeah, I think that's the one thing this team has done a really good job with. I think Fred has touted the maturity. It's the oldest team in the league. So certainly, signs of that isn't good. The fact that Alec was willing to call it out, I think you have to identify it and call a spade, which, Josiah has been a lot of places. I think Mass is a leader. Certainly, Welcher's been around for a while, so hopefully they can, kind of right the ship. But certainly some players didn't play well, and I think you can get into yourself a little bit and become a little pouty. And credit Alec. Now calling it out's one thing, and then responding and being able to go on the road again to a tough place to play at Rutgers. Words. I think sometimes we as media and we can overreact to that stuff. We'll see if they can respond and give a better effort on the road with back-to-back road trips here.
Former Nebraska captain Andy Markowski played for Danny Nee in 98 and 99 for Nebraska basketball and calls games for the Big Ten Network as well here and there. Defensive intensity, we pointed it out. It was a problem against Creighton. It was a problem against Iowa. But for the most part, it's been much improved in this era of Hoiberg. Why do you think it's improved so dramatically from year one until now under Hoiberg?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. Nate Linser joined Fred's staff 3 years ago and really moved the defense from where Doc Sadler had it, where they were kind of allowed middle penetration, kind of protected the block, took away baseline, and Nate kind of brought in kind of a 10 Floyd, Larry Eustace, where they take middle away, they over-rotate on the baseline. I think we've done a really good job of protecting the rim. I think from efficiency percent defensively, we're one of the top in the country at points given up at the rim. We tend to give up some open threes, but over the course of time, I think that gives us a better chance to be successful. Secondly, I think Fred had to realize he was going to come in and out-tempo the Big Ten, and that wasn't going to happen. The Big Ten will just grind you down, and if you look at, Fred still is one of the higher offensive efficiency teams in the Big Ten, but nothing close to what he had in the Big 12. So I think he recognized that he was going to have to play a slower style, a little bit more ball control, grind some games down, and then I think they've really done a good job in the portal of going after some physical, strong, mature, defensive-minded players in the last 2 years. I think he's put a better group out that has been able to hold up in the Big Ten. So I think it's a little bit of all three of those areas.
Two-time Nebraska basketball captain Andy Markowski joining us on the Allo VIP line. I keep putting this off because I want to ask you more about men's basketball, but I've got to ask about your daughter and the women's team. Obviously, Alexis has been a star at Nebraska since the time she set foot on a practice court, a little over 3 years ago. The team is looking pretty good this year. Rough way that today's game played out. Give me your thoughts on Amy Williams' crew this year, and any insight you can from being the dad of one of the better players, not only on Nebraska but in the Big Ten.
Yeah, thanks. They've certainly had a good start to the season. Was predicted to be in the NCAA tournament, which I think for women's basketball, with the resources Nebraska has, should be a minimum today. Going on the road to a good Minnesota team that, kind of in the same spot as them, kind of right in that, last few teams in the tournament, and just didn't play a good first half today. But, they've had a good start to the season. They've got some good wins, but certainly the men's 20-game league schedule, the women's 18-game league schedule, a lot of really good teams, a lot of really good players. And, you just have to find ways to protect your home court, but losing an opportunity to beat maybe a winnable Minnesota game would certainly put them in a better position. But so far they're 12-5, and have to go on have a home game against Michigan and then on the road to Penn State. So the next two games are going to be important if they want to be in that NCAA tournament.
Andy, the men's side seems to be a little more down this year compared to the women's side. What's the number for the women compared to the number for the men, you think, in league play that they need to win?
Yeah, I think 20 gets the Nebraska women in. They have played a pretty good non-conference schedule. I think the men probably need to go one over that one, just with their non-conference, maybe losing a couple opportunities, not really playing a super strong schedule. I think the women probably get 8 Big Ten teams in, looking at how it could break. I think the men's going to be closer to maybe 6, if not 7, just with the middle depths of the league maybe not being as strong as you mentioned. So, I think the men have to, consistently win some of these, 50-50 games, which, this Rutgers game is going to be an important game. I think it's a road game they can win, and Rutgers is probably going to be right in the middle of the pack as they're fighting for that, maybe that 6th or 7th last spot in the dance.
Back to your daughter. You coached her in high school. You were assistant coach at Pius. She accepted a scholarship to South Dakota State, then changed her mind and went to Nebraska, which I'm sure you were grateful for or fun to see her, at home. Did you know that she would be this good when you were coaching her in high school?
Well, you never know. I mean, Lexus, for having a chance to play AAU and playing against some of the top posts in the country. I knew that she had a chance to play college. I would have never guessed that she's going on a 3-time all Big Ten, and might go down as top 5 scorer and top rebounder in school history. So you can never predict that. But Alexis has been a super hard worker, a great teammate, loves the grind, loves to get in the gym and work. And I think just even over her 3 years, just changing her body and expanding her skill set and having a chance to go play at the USA Merit Cup group this summer, I think showed her some areas that she needs to continue to get better at, and is not afraid to work at it. So certainly we've enjoyed following her. She's worked hard at her craft, and it's been fun having her. And the state, I think, has really enjoyed following her and supporting her, which has made it a really fun 2.5 years.
How I had to chuckle when you start rattling off all these things that Alexis has the potential to do at Nebraska, and it's just it's a simple fact, but it's your daughter you're talking about. It's like, man, that's kind of cool. That's like really cool. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, and I knew I would not let you get off the phone without asking you, is about one of the most genuine characters that college basketball has ever seen. Your head coach, Danny Nee. Is there any Danny Nee story you might be able to share with us that is airable that maybe we haven't heard before?
Well,
And what are your thoughts about him coming back?
Coach Snee was one of a kind, right? It's he would have probably a hard time coaching today's student athlete, and just a couple. So I don't know how much time I have. This could run forever, but I could never understand where Danny. I got to be a junior, and you mentioned captain and all that, and I thought I kind of got past the point where you don't get your ass chewed every day and the butt chewed every day, and finally, like towards the middle of my junior year, I just finally asked him, like, why do you yell at me all the time? And he basically said, well, I can't yell at Benson. Benson doesn't handle getting yelled at very much, so I'm just going to yell at you instead. So once we kind of got to that level, but that's where Danny was. He was an ultimate competitor, and he would do great things off the court with us. I remember, I think our junior or senior year, we went laser tagging just kind of as a team builder, and he was right in the trenches, and Piakowski ended up catching him with his laser gun and split his nose, and Danny comes out of laser tag, and their team lost. And he's bleeding, and that's who Coach was. He was one of us. Just a fun guy to play for, ultimate competitor, and there's probably a lot of things I can't say. He was a pretty fiery New Yorker, which I loved. I loved being challenged. I loved being coached hard, and Coach would coach us hard, go have a beer and celebrate the wins, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be back next week, and I've got to travel to a work deal, but it's going to be fun to have him, back where fans can celebrate the great teams we had in the 90s.
That's a shame. Have you talked to him or been in contact to him with him?
I have not. I need to call him to let him know I'm not going to be around this week, but, he was back for the Hall of Fame a few years back. He came back for a golf fundraiser a couple years ago, and then obviously I coached for about 8 or 9 years. So, have kept tabs on Danny, but not recently in the last 6 to 9 months. We have not been able to connect, but I will. And like I said, I know a lot of players are excited to have him back in town, and, a chance to get together and probably reminisce and remember a few more stories from 25 years ago.
Well, those were some fun teams to watch. I mean, Nebraska basketball might be as talented or as close to some of those teams as I've seen in quite a while, but it had to be fun showing up every day at practice with some of the talent that was on those teams.
Well, I would have never thought it would be the pinnacle of Nebraska basketball, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we had a lot of good teams, won a Big 8 title in 94 and 1996, 5 tournaments in the 90s. I think there were 6 NBA guys through that stretch. And, hopefully, I just hope that Fred can get this program to the tournament and win a game. We had our chances. We had Arkansas down by 9 with 4 minutes to go in 97 and found a way to give that away. So, I think, this Nebraska fan base wants to support a winner, and, hopefully we can get some momentum like we had in the 90s. And once you break through at the win with NIL and some of the collective and the arena and the stuff we have set up, I do think the program could go on a little run here where the fans can have fun following the program.
Two-time Nebraska basketball captain Andy Markowski joining us on the Allo VIP line. Last question, Andy. Tom had mentioned that you do a little bit of work for the Big Ten Network. I've caught you several times with Jessica on those broadcasts, on the basketball broadcast. How'd you get involved in that? And is that something you may want to pursue a little bit more often?
Well, when like I said, I coached collegiately for 8 years, and then got out and really did a lot of the radio for the network, and did some Fox Sports stuff back when that was the package. And then kind of had to make the decision, do I want to coach my kids or do broadcasting? So I kind of got away from it, but get pulled back in. I've done high school state championships now for going on about a decade. So I still love it. I love being able to sit down and call games and follow it. But yeah, never say never. But right now, most of my time is spent coaching. I still got a daughter in high school and an 8th grade son. So spending my time there is enjoyable as well, but always love to talk hoops and watch hoops and have a chance to call some games.
Well, being somebody who's called well over 1,000 games of various sports in my career, and then being a Nebraska basketball fan, I love having you on those broadcasts. I think you do as good of a job as anybody in breaking down plays in such a very tight window of time. And you give it to where you give the information on what happened in the play, how it succeeded, why it failed, as good as anybody in the business. And I truly love it every time you're on, man.
I appreciate the kind words, and it's sometimes, like you said, it's difficult, and the state boys are really hard when I have to learn six different or 12 teams names in a night, right? So sometimes the amount of prep that goes into those things, people don't acknowledge that. So I appreciate the kind words, and you guys are doing a great job building build a brand at your station, and appreciate you talking Husker Hoops.
Well, I think Mike's compliment suggests we'd like to have you back at some point.
Absolutely.
Well, always available. The price is right. So happy
right.
to talk anytime.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate the time. Have a good night.
All right, guys.
There you
Stay
go.
warm.
Former Nebraska captain, two-time captain under Danny Nee. Some Danny Nee stories. Why are you always yelling at me? Because I can't yell at that other dude. He doesn't take it very well.
I can't yell at Vincent Hamilton because he doesn't take it well.
That's just good stuff.
It is, and a coach that tells me that Danny was a good coach. We already knew he was.
Yeah.
But I think back to former Stars head coach Steve Johnson, and he would have to learn how to yell at guys, whether he could jump on them or not. One of the toughest guys that ever played for the Stars was a guy named Jared Bohl. He's the all-time penalty minute leader for the Columbus Blue Jackets in the NHL. But Jared was a guy his second year that started out gangbusters. He was leading the league like 12 games in. He's leading the league in goals scored, points, and penalty minutes. And he got into a slump, and Coach Johnson started just, jumping all over him. And they had another kid that was kind of quiet and was kind of wasn't playing as well as he could. And he was just kind of patting him on the back. Oh, it'll be okay. And finally, one of the coaches said, well, why don't you just reverse it? Because they both still are not playing well. And so he goes out and absolutely lays into this poor kid.
Yeah.
That's this quiet, introverted little kid. And he got pissed and dominated the practice from there on out. And he walked over to Jared Bohl, patted him on the back. And all of a sudden, I think Jared had 2 goals that night and 5 for the next week. And he identified who he could yell at.
You got to figure out who can take it and who doesn't really enjoy it. Like a lot of coaches, if they have a son on the team, I don't know if Fred does this with Sam. They'll lay into their son knowing that, hey, Sam, you're going to have to take it. Because you're kind of the whipping boy here. I got to make an example out of somebody. And so you just got to take it today.
In that instance, though, Sam is usually the one setting the examples of what to do.
It's hard to yell at Sam. It's really hard because the guy plays so hard. Let's get to break and come back with more after this.
It's football season in Nebraska, and that means coaches are busy making game plans. I'm Eric Hagan with Liberty Law Group. Teams make game plans because no 2 opponents are the same. At Liberty Law, we understand no 2 cases are the same. Whether facing a DUI, criminal charge, or you were injured and it wasn't your fault, we tailor our legal game plan to meet your unique needs. Liberty Law's relentless trial attorneys serve all of Nebraska. To learn more, visit libertylawnebraska.com. That's libertylawnebraska.com.
Tailored Lights is your go-to local manufacturer and installer of the best landscape lighting. Tailored Lights is excited to highlight the architecture of your home or business and provide a warm environment that feels safe. And for those outside the Lincoln area, they do ship across the country and are happy to work with anyone near or far with lights anywhere from 18 inches to 110 inches. Enhance your curb appeal with an exquisite Tailored Light today. Call 402-432-2572 or go to tailoredlights.com.
The best way to learn about Southeast Community College is to visit. SCC's Career Days will provide you with a hands-on experience as you learn alongside SCC faculty and students and industry partners. Explore careers in healthcare, construction, ag, automotive, manufacturing, engineering, power sports, transportation, or technology. See your options at southeast.edu/visit SCC. SCC, your path to possible.
Fall has arrived, and it's the perfect weather for the DIY market to listen to the game while building a deck. Deck City is a great place to start as Lincoln's local source for everything decks. Deck City has everything you need to build the deck of your dreams, from treated lumber to Westbury aluminum railings and Decorators composite decking. They offer advice from real deck professionals to give you proper guidance and to make your project go smoothly. Call them today to schedule an appointment at 402-480-6671 or go online to deckcityne.com.
When it comes to tackling your fall projects, having the right equipment can make a huge difference. At Sunbelt Rentals, they have an extensive line of tools and equipment to help complete any job. From lawn and landscape equipment to hand tools, pressure washers, portable generators for you tailgaters, and much more. Sunbelt Rentals makes it easy to get what you need when you need it. Drop in to see the experts at 5450 Alvo Road in Lincoln, or visit sunbeltrentals.com today to learn how Sunbelt Rentals can make it happen for you.
Guys, you've heard me tell you all about Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping, but it's not just me. Folks all over town are having success with the FXB program. Guys like Gary, who just finished up his own 10-week challenge.
Yeah, Mark. After having a knee replacement in March, I was looking for a way to get back into shape. The workouts are fun, the atmosphere is a total blast, and I've lost 17 pounds since starting in July.
The next Farrell's 10-week challenge begins on October 7th, and ticket listeners get $150 off enrollment. Just head to theticketfm.com. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill and 70th and Vine.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Mike Melby. That is Tom Stevens. A big thanks to former Nebraska basketball player, two-time captain, three-time first-team all-academic in the Big 12, Andy Markowski, joining us last segment on the Allo VIP
Is he
line.
good talking basketball?
Oh, my gosh.
Man, he really breaks down the game in a really good way. I mean, obviously, I've heard him on BTM Plus with Jessica Cootie doing games, and he's really, really good at it. And we're the state championships every single year, boys and girls. He's really, really good at what he does.
Yeah. Truly is. So we don't have Lanny's Big Ten Blitz with being stream only.
Big Ten Blitz. I'll kick it off. Wisconsin 15 in the country over Northwestern. That was on, I believe, last night. They beat Northwestern 71-63. They improved to 5-0 in the league, commanding lead. Now 13-3. Northwestern has been really good as well. They have a win over Purdue, but Wisconsin, really, really good at the rim. And I can't see I should have put my glasses on.
Hey, for those of you listening that do not know, both Tom and I are old. Yeah.
Max Klesmet had 24 points to lead the Badgers. AJ Storr, 14 points. Wisconsin shoots 50% from the floor. And again, they improved to 5-0 in the league. Wisconsin is at Penn State on Tuesday. Northwestern will host Maryland.
Earlier today, Maryland upsets Illinois, and I'm going to tell you right now, the upsets are going to keep coming for Illinois. They lose their best player to the rape allegations. I don't see he's actually sued to be able to play again because they say innocent until proven guilty in this by suspending him from the team. Then that means that they're convicting him already. And it's like,
he's filed a restraining order.
Yeah, restraining order. It's like, that's not the way this works. This isn't necessarily a criminal case that you're talking about.
He's a really good player.
He is. He was averaging like 21 and 9 or something.
And they're still 10th in the country.
Well, they're not going to be for long, especially after losing 76-67 today to Maryland at home. Jameer Young scored 28 points. Julian Reese had 20 plus 11 rebounds to lead the Terrapins to the victory. It's the 10th time this week that a team ranked in the AP top 10 has lost.
Yeah.
And Nebraska was part of that. Maryland outscored Illinois 39-28 in the second half, taking the lead for good on a dunk by Reese with about 15 and a half minutes to go. Terrapins were 8.5-point underdogs coming in, but the road win gets them to 3-3 in conference. They're 11-6 overall. Illinois falls to 3-2, 12-4 overall. And again, they are without their best player moving forward for the foreseeable future. I can't imagine he's going to play again this year if he ever plays again, if he doesn't wind up in jail, because everything that has been brought to light about the situation.
It happened in a bar.
Yeah.
And they don't have a lot of proof, it sounds like. They don't have cameras that show what happened. It's a little bit of a he said, she said.
Yeah, it seems like it.
But it happened apparently in Lawrence, Kansas, when they were playing Kansas over the. I don't know what's going to come over this. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, exactly.
Number one, Purdue over Penn State handily last night or yesterday afternoon, 95-78. Of course, the National Player of the Year, Zach Edey, has been on a tear At least he was yesterday. 30 points and 20 rebounds. He was 10 of 12 from the field. Purdue made 11 threes in that game, and they easily win after falling to Nebraska. Nice little comeback for Purdue. 15-2 now on the year. Penn State falls to 8-9. And Purdue will have Indiana on Tuesday. They're at Indiana on Tuesday.
Big Ten's going to be interesting this year because you kind of have the big two. And you've got a couple of teams, and with Illinois now losing their star player.
Yeah, they had 3, and now it's 2.
Yeah, and boy, the middle of the pack is just it's a mess. It's going to be the same way as it was with football.
Yeah.
Because right now you've got Northwestern, you've got Indiana, Minnesota, Illinois still, Nebraska, Maryland, Ohio State, Michigan State. I still think is going to put a run together. Iowa, that all are right there. They're all within a couple of points of each other.
So rank your teams heading up to Nebraska. Obviously, Purdue number 1.
And that's the funny thing. Right now I almost might put Wisconsin at least a number 1. Give Purdue the edge though. But
Wisconsin's 5-0 in the league.
They're rolling, man. Purdue 3-2 in the league. So I'm still going to give the nod.
Now.
Yeah, 4-2. Yeah. Sorry. Give Purdue the nod at number 1, Wisconsin number 2, but a very, very close number 2. I got Indiana at 3, Northwestern at 4, and then Minnesota at 5. How about you for your top 5?
What did Minnesota do today? Did they fall? I don't know. They lost yesterday, I believe.
I was going to say, I know they didn't play today.
They lost yesterday. Minnesota did. But I don't know where I would put. Minnesota's at 3-2. Nebraska had that 17-point lead to Minnesota, but Minnesota won the game, and they played with a lot of intensity. I like Purdue number 1. I'll go Wisconsin number 2. Still Illinois, even with the loss today. They're 3-2 in the league. Northwestern's right there. They have a win over Purdue. They're 3-2. And then I put all these 3-2 teams kind of in a clump. Northwestern, Nebraska, Minnesota, all 3-2 now. And then you drop down to Michigan State. They did have the big win today, but they're 4-2 in the league. Yep. Ohio State is 3-2. Michigan is having a disastrous year.
Yeah.
Rutgers is now 1-4.
Yeah, they got smoked today by
Penn State's not very good. Maryland has played better as of late. I just put them all in a clump.
Yeah.
I just don't. Andy said, that, hey, to get to the NCAA tournament, Nebraska is probably going to have to win 21 games.
Yeah. I think it's doable. I really
do. I think he's right. 6 to 7 teams in the dance this year. It's just not as strong. You've seen years where the Big Ten has gotten 10 teams in.
Yeah, and then you've seen years that they've only gotten 4 because it's kind of a year like
that
this.
Nebraska
was the 5th.
13-6?
Yeah. So for me, I had Minnesota at 5. Then I went Illinois, Maryland, Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan State, Iowa. But yeah, Michigan State rolled Rutgers earlier today, 73-55. And then yesterday, Wisco rolled Wisconsin, Purdue over Penn State. Going back, I'm trying to see when the last time Minnesota lost to Indiana, who I think is probably the 3rd best team in the league right now. Yeah. They lost to them on Friday night, but I still think Minnesota's a solid team. I'll be honest with you. It's one of those where the most important game of the year for every basketball team is the next one.
Right.
We all
Nebraska,
know that.
That's Rutgers on Wednesday.
And it's Rutgers at Wednesday. But you know how we've talked in the past couple of weeks about, hey, they've got a 2-game stretch coming up. They need to go 1-1 with. Hey, this 4-game stretch, they've got to somehow figure out a way to go 2-2. They've done that so far. Looking ahead to this coming week at Rutgers, a team that's not playing well. The wheels seem to be coming off already, even though we're just in the first couple of weeks of January. To me, that's a must win. And even though Northwestern is playing some solid basketball, I think next Saturday against Northwestern at home is a must win for Nebraska basketball if they want to do what they need to do this year.
Boo Booey's as good as
I get it. I get it.
That's a really good player.
At the end of the day, that's a game Nebraska has got to find a way to win. These next 2, they have got to win them.
And Andy, I thought, brought up a really good point. You had, 2 days of prep. Iowa had 6.
Yeah.
And that's happened to Nebraska 3 or 4 times this year.
Yep.
It sounds unfair and like the Big Ten's against us. They aren't. It's just it's part of the schedule when you're in this big, gigantic league and you're trying to get teams on, you're playing one game at 6 and another at 8:30. It's only going to get worse when USC and Oregon and Washington join the league. It's just going to get worse. I mean, you're going to see some game times that are just crazy. Nebraska, we did this against Creighton. Remember the show we had with Strick and Austin in here, and we were all just panicking?
Yep.
Because Nebraska had gotten blown out against Creighton, we thought, well, they have Minnesota. We'll see how that goes. They lose the game to Minnesota after a 17-point halftime lead. I'm not ready to panic this time. If they go and beat Rutgers, they're back on the trail, and they're 14-4. Iowa has won 5 of their last 6. They're a really tough team to beat at home. Again, 6 days of prep. Yeah. Nebraska didn't play well, and I like Josiah Alec calling out the team a little bit, but you gotta back it up. Nebraska has not played well on the road. They've not played with intensity on the road. They did it in Madison. They did it again in Iowa City. You got to play with some intensity when you go on the road, and Rutgers will beat the crap out of you. That's what they do.
Seems like a different Rutgers team, but I still think that they're going to be as physical. And we made the comment earlier in the season that Nebraska's playing a little bit like the old, better Rutgers teams, where they're just super physical. They get in your face and they let you know that you're in a back alley fight. Yeah. And when Nebraska brings that back alley fight, I think they can play with anyone in the country, including the top-ranked team in the country, whether it's Purdue or Marquette or whoever. I don't care, but I think they can compete with anybody in the country when they bring their back alley fight attitude. Bring it on. So we'll see what they can do here in Piscataway on Wednesday.
I want to talk a little volleyball because Nebraska did pick up a big recruit over the weekend, and we'll talk some volleyball. We'll talk who knows where we go from here, but it is Husker Rewind. We do it every Sunday from 5 to 7. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. Back with more after this.
For spring, things like getting new tree orders, getting equipment ready, and training staff to serve you the best we can. If you haven't already planned, now is the perfect time to figure out a maintenance plan for your yard. We're on the brink of spring cleanups for all of our existing customers and have limited spots left. We trim trees and shrubs when needed and only mulch proper amounts. Give us a call today at 402-432-2572 to set up a meeting with one of our designers and get ready for Tailored Life's grand opening in Bennett.
You know that feeling after a good, hearty meal? The worries of the world just slip away. Time slows down. Nothing but good times and good company. That's what you get with Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Mary Ellen's does food right, with a menu that includes smoked wings, pulled pork, brisket, catfish. And don't sleep on their sides, shrimp and grits, collard greens, baked beans. It's food that makes your heart happy. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul, just east of 27th and Pineland. Let them fix you a plate.
Hey there.
Hi, honey.
Uh-oh.
Remember we told Jamie and Mike about Liberty First Credit Union, how great their checking account and car loans are, the amazing service we get, and how we love being members?
Yeah.
Well, they took our advice. Jamie said how easy it was to move all their accounts and become members. Now they say they're banking with purpose at Liberty First Credit Union.
Learn more about being a member at libertyfirstcu.com. Liberty First Credit Union. Banking with purpose. Member NCUA.
There's a lot of realtors in Lincoln, but don't get overwhelmed by all the names. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realtor Group at Berkshire Hathaway Ambassador Real Estate is your go-to option when buying or selling residential and commercial property. Ben's team offers unbeatable customer service and promises to make the buying and selling process as stress-free as possible. Call Ben today at 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Ambassador Real Estate. No pressure, just professionalism.
Problem gambling affects more than the gambler. It affects spouses, children, extended family members, and friends. If you are a loved one who's struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's helpline at 402-476-2300. That's 476-2300.
At first, I was really nervous and intimidated to buy a ring. I wasn't sure what I was getting into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with the ring that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful.
I absolutely love my ring. I get compliments on it all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman.
Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back.
Sure. Sauter Heyman Jewelers, Lincoln and Grand Island. SauterHeyman.com.
Hi. Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind here on 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. We are on the stream only. You can catch us on Twitter, on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube. as well as Allo Channel 961 now.
961.
961 on Allo. Sutter Heyman text line, Honda of Lincoln hotline 402-464-5685. If you want to chime into the show. Big thanks to Andy Markowski jumping on the Allo VIP line last hour. This hour at 6:25, we will have Brian Munson on. Some interesting happenings within the football program and portal recruiting in the last 10 days. And then
they're not done either.
No, I don't think they are.
I don't think they're going to go crazy, but it will be interesting to see if they ever get a quarterback. Because I think they need one.
I think it's after spring, and I do think they get one.
That's probably the move. You wait till after spring and see what happens in the portal.
Yeah, and we both had a note. You mentioned a guy that's Nebraska is going to be looking at relatively quickly, and I brought up number one offensive tackle in the 2026 class, Jackson Cantwell, that's going to be in town next week. We're going to talk to Brian about those guys.
I do want to talk a little volleyball here. Laylo Blackwell. 6'4", middle blocker. She has 1 year remaining. She's played her last 3 years at San Diego, started her career at Indiana, ranked in the top 10 in blocking in 2022. Of course, Maggie Mendelson has transferred to Penn State, so they needed another blocker. You hate to go with just two. You have Andy Jackson, you have Beck Alec, and now Blackwell, who would start and probably be first team all-league anywhere she went. And I do think this is interesting that you're building these all-star teams everywhere you go. I mean, especially in leagues like the Big Ten, and especially when you're talking about teams like Texas and Wisconsin and Nebraska. It is interesting that a girl who could go anywhere and start and be all-league decides to, compete for a job at Nebraska. Because she won't be the starter, I don't think, over Andy Jackson or Becca Alec, will she? As good as she
that's
is.
the whole thing. You know what? You got to assume she thinks that she can earn playing time.
113 blocks, 205 kills, hit 329 this past year.
But the thing is, when both Becca and Andy are on, you will not play in front of them. But
no,
inconsistency for both was a little bit of a hiccup this year. That's where Maggie Mendelson was able to come in and provide some quality time. She'd play an entire set. There was one game, I think it was actually the first round of the NCAA tournament. John Cook sat Becca Alec, and she came back the next game and was pissed at the world and had 14 blocks or something. So
I remember Tom Osborne back in the 90s, in 94, 95, 96, in that era, that he would step up to the podium during recruiting signing days and say, there were certain recruits that told him, I can't play for you. And these were 4-star players. They would come to, I can't play for you. I'm not good enough to play here. And I think that happens with John Cook as well. You saw Aiden Ames, and she's good enough to play at Nebraska, obviously, but she flipped from Nebraska and went to Texas. But some girls don't like the spotlight of 8,500 people in the arena every night. It's not made for everybody. And I've heard Jalen Reyes tell me that not every girl likes that. And I'm not saying that's what happened with Aiden Ames, but some girls are like, bring it on. Bring on the competition. Bring on the crowd. I'm good.
Well, but Aiden Ames decommitted from Nebraska and went to the two-time defending national champion Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, but
they play in front of
they
a sold-out crowd every match.
Yeah, but not 8,500, 4,000, whatever it is.
Regardless, I don't think it was a competition thing, whether it was an NIL deal or maybe it just wasn't as good of a fit as she initially thought. Who knows? But
I think she was scared. But I'm excited for Husker volleyball. I don't think that they're suddenly better than Texas or even Wisconsin. Wisconsin didn't lose Sarah Franklin. They didn't lose anybody of significance. So it'll be fun to watch volleyball. I know it's early to talk about it, but it's always fun to mention that Nebraska just got better, and they did over the weekend.
A quick note for all you Cowboys fans out there: your team is going to lose. Oh wait
a minute, that's your team. They're terrible.
They are.
Again, it's got to be. You can't whisper the word playoffs around these guys, otherwise they'll just melt. Somebody must have told them at the press conference that they're in the playoffs, and then they realized it and they collapsed.
That's exactly what happened.
The Packers.
Bill Belichick will be the Cowboys head coach by Tuesday.
That would be awesome. For the Cowboys, I would hate it because I hate the Cowboys. I hate the Packers. So I'm one of these guys that looks at this game and go, well, I don't know who to root for because I don't like either one of them.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing is that like I'm not a big Bill Belichick fan either. So I can't. But I don't know. If they ever win, I'm going to cheer for them. I am. I'm just not surprised that they're getting beat right now.
Bill Belichick is not retired. He's going to keep coaching. But Nick Saban has retired. He is not going to keep coaching.
Nope.
At Alabama. So Bill Belichick still probably those are the two best coaches in the history of football, right? Nick Saban's certainly Nick Saban's the best coach in college football history, and I'd like to go to Tom Osborne, but I can't. This is a guy that won 7 national titles, 1 at LSU, 6 at Alabama, played in 11 SEC championships, won 382 games, whatever it is, was almost unbeatable on the big stage. But he has stepped down, and now Kalen DeBoer has taken over the reins at Alabama. Do you think that was a good hire? I mean, Sarkisian wasn't going to take it. They didn't have a lot of chance. I mean, Lanning says he was going to stay at Oregon. Norvell was going to stay at Florida State. Those seem to be the big options there. Kind of the names that we thought. Lane Kiffin never came up, but maybe Lane Kiffin had told Alabama early on, I'm not taking that gig. But it seems like if that gig had been offered to Lane Kiffin, he would have taken it, right?
I would think. And that's why I said in the opening kickoff that I mean, Kalen DeBoer may surprise me, but I think Alabama's a bigger job than what he can handle. Because you're not dealing with expectations that you are at Washington, and you're not dealing with just a handful of boosters. You're dealing with the juggernaut where, I mean, if they go 12-1 during a regular season and SEC championship game,
but maybe that's in part why
then it's an average season, so they better win a couple in the playoffs and get to the Final Four at least.
That's why you need Saban to stick around, which he is. He's going to have an office. Denny Bryant, what is that? The stadium.
Dennehy.
Bryant, whatever it is. He's going to have an office there. He says he's going to consult or do whatever and take the load off of DeBoer at least for a while and try to lighten the load a little bit. I did think it was a little, hey, he's got 100% access. I thought that comment was a little bit weird.
Especially as quick as he said it in the press conference. Thank you. I'm proud to be the coach of Alabama. By the way, I want to make sure everybody knows Nick Saban will have all access to everything. Right. We're going to give him a headset during games.
If he comes in my office, I'll just get the hell out. But I'll just leave.
Yeah.
If he wants me to make him a sandwich, I'll do that. Anything he wants me to do, I will do. That was a little bit weird. I think DeBoer has won everywhere he's been.
Yeah.
104-12. He was 25-3 in Washington. He did it without great recruiting classes. National Coach of the Year, back-to-back in the Pac-12, but National Coach of the Year on the college stage. He did it at Sioux Falls. He did it at Eastern Washington. He did it at Fresno. And then he comes to Washington, and he still does it. He has not been a great recruiter, though.
So that brings me to the point of why I'm not sure he succeeds there. A guy that is able to take average talent and turn it into a national championship contender is one type of coach. That type of coach is normally not the same guy that can take 5-star NFL talent-filled rosters, manage the egos, and get the most out of that team. Now, he may be the unicorn that can do something like that, but normally the guy that can sit there and build and take average and turn it into great isn't a guy that can take great and turn it into championship.
It's interesting. Some guys are great college coaches. Other guys are great pro coaches. We talked about Belichick. He's never coached at the college level. But Saban has. He tried it with the Dolphins, and he was 15-17. Great on the college level. Produced 4 Heisman winners, 7 national titles, all that stuff. But then I think of the one guy that did it, and maybe you can think of another guy that did it. Switzer, to a degree, briefly, did it at both levels, but I don't really. He was kind of a puppet. The one guy that did it was Pete Carroll.
Yeah, the guy that's now out at Seattle. So
and they said, well, he's not out. He could still be in. He's like he can be in an office. He just can't coach. Well, keep your office. It's like the red stapler. They just keep moving it down.
Yep.
Melvin or whatever the guy's name from Office Space, where
I can't remember his name.
They keep moving his desk, and finally he's in the basement and he can't find the red stapler. But they won't do that with Pete Carroll. They just didn't want to fire him because he's Pete Carroll. But they said you're not fired. You just don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
The same job. We'll still pay you. We'll still pay you handsomely. But he's the one guy that I can think of that did it at both the college and the pro level. And then Barry Switzer to a minor. I mean,
for a year.
Yeah. And maybe I'm missing some guy. It would have been interesting to me to see, like, there was a rumor at one point that Tom Osborne might move to the NFL. I think he had an offer from the 49ers or somebody in the NFL briefly. Certainly had.
Was it 49ers or for some reason I want to say the Redskins, or is that because
it might have been the Redskins
or the
he played
Commanders
for the 49ers. He played
at the time Redskins.
He played for the 49ers in the NFL briefly as a wide receiver. But he had an offer, I believe, on the table at one time from the NFL. He definitely had the Colorado offer in 78. I wonder if a guy like that would have been effective in the NFL. I don't know.
You know, the flip side of it is from the standpoint of, would Nick Saban, let's back him up 4 years. And let's say he takes an NFL head coaching job 4 years ago. Do you think his team is playing this weekend, or do you think his team has a bye, or did they not make the playoffs in the NFL after he's won for the sake of 6 of his national titles, after he's had that much success?
Are we back?
It looks like we might be back.
We might be back. We were probably down for a while. We have video, but not audio.
I wish I knew sign language.
Yeah, I mean, this happens.
Oh.
Are we back now? Okay. If you missed us for a few minutes, we were off the air apparently.
Yeah. There's a gremlin in the wiring, which is why the radio part is not working today. I don't know if it has to do with 41 below zero wind chills and negative 17 temperatures, etc.
So how much of our Saban conversation do you think they caught?
Probably none.
We were talking about Nick Saban and the fact that he had success on the college level, but never really in the NFL level. Obviously Belichick, one of the greatest of all time, NFL, never really tried college. Pete Carroll did it at both levels. I wondered about Tom Osborne, if Tom Osborne could have done it at the pro level. I think he did have an offer out there. You said the Redskins. I thought it was the 49ers. I'm not sure.
That's where I don't remember what it was.
But there's no debating that the guy is the greatest coach of all time. 7 national titles, 6 at Alabama, 1 at LSU, hired in 2007, 17 years at Alabama, 1 in 3 different decades. He's the only one to ever do that. He's the only one to do a lot of different things. He won 11 SEC championships. He had 4 Heisman winners. They never had a Heisman winner before he got there, which I'm surprised.
Namath didn't win it?
No, he didn't. They had Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Devontae Smith, and Bryce Young. They had 4 Heisman winners. All of them after Nick Saban got there. 292 wins just at Alabama. Yeah, I was stunned as well. I thought somebody in the Bear Bryant era had to have won the Heisman. He was a DC with the Browns from 91 to 94. He was the head coach with the Dolphins and went 15 and 17. And I think one of the most impressive things is he evolved. He went from, let's just slam it up the middle. Let's just run it every single time. I don't care if it's 3rd and 11, we're running the football to, let's get Lane Kiffin. Let's get Steve Sarkisian. Let's throw it all over the lot. So he won it in a couple of different ways and evolved offensively. Now he could do that because he was getting the best talent in the world all the time. I've heard stories. You remember Jack Pierce, who was at Nebraska, considered one of the greatest recruiters of all time. His son was an assistant coach on the Alabama staff and said he was crazy with organization. Like they had this event where Saban had to sign footballs for fans or boosters. And he made them put each football on a pedestal so he could walk by, pick up the football, sign the football, and then walk to the next pedestal and sign he didn't want any wasted steps in signing the footballs.
Yeah. Efficiency.
He told me, Justin Pierce told me the story of Saban. Tom Lemming's in there. He's in Saban's office or in an office, and they're watching video of Alabama players for the draft or whatever's going on. Saban walks in and reads Lemming the riot act. Who the hell are you? Blah, 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 blah. Who are you? Tom Lemming, ESPN, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you need. But he's just like, that was Nick Saban. He was in control of everything. I'm told that he had like 4 phones on his desk. Number 1 recruit, number 2 recruit, number 3 recruit, number 4 recruit. They were all on his desk, and he had phones just dedicated to certain recruits. I don't know if half that stuff is true. It becomes bigger than life after a while, but I think some of it is true.
I truly do. And you're talking about, one of the best coaches in college football history, if not the best. And I was sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so you've got Nick Saban and Bear Bryant are obviously probably both in the top 5 of all-time college football coaches. I think, Newt Rockney's in there. Osborne's in there. I don't know if you put Pete Carroll in there because it's kind of a smaller sample size. But with Bob Devaney is definitely in the top 10, I think, of all time. And as you're talking about that, every once in a while, I'll scroll back to my Twitter just to see if anything's breaking. And I see a tweet by one of the best college volleyball coaches in history. He just happened to have won a national title with Nebraska back in 1995. His name's Terry Pettit. And he just tweeted out something that he said, hey, if you want to know more about this, join the Facebook group Inside the Coaching Mind with Terry Pettit. So
we got to get him on.
We got to get Terry on. Here's some facts. Okay. You know how all the stories you hear? Terry Pettit just threw some facts. So I think Cluster Johnson and Eric Strickland on WTF, We Talk Facts, these are some facts they could talk. In 2024, the Big Ten will have 12 teams that have combined for 77 Final Four appearances and 21 national titles. That is insane.
That's crazy.
6 teams have won the 21 national titles. In the ACC, 9 national titles, 32 Final Fours. SEC, 5 national titles, 27 Final Fours. And the Big 12, now that Nebraska is no longer there, 0 natties and only 6 national titles.
Wow.
I mean, you know how we're all talking and we can kind of see the writing on the wall that college football is going to go to a 48 or a 64-team format that breaks away from the NCAA. Maybe conferences go back to relatively close to what they were in all other sports. Who knows what exactly is going to happen? You know what? Let's pull Stanford, Texas, Kentucky, Florida, Louisville, and Pittsburgh out of the ACC and SEC, put them in the Big Ten Volleyball Conference, and just let those 24 teams break away from everybody else.
That would be great for volleyball.
For volleyball.
John Baylor told me something today about Stanford, though, that might have them suffer over the next few years. They don't do NIL because of their academic requirements. We've seen that at Northwestern for football. They don't do academics, and I think that was one of the reasons they don't do NIL, because of their academic requirements, and I think that really is going to hurt them. I think it's one of the reasons they weren't invited into the Big Ten for football. And I'm wondering down the road if that will be the deal with a team like Stanford. You mentioned Terry Pettit. I was talking about, a legend following a legend. That never happens. That happened with volleyball at Nebraska. It happened with football, Devaney Osborne, but it also happened with Terry Pettit and then John Cook. So that, I guess I was asking for an example. I found one.
There you go.
Right at Nebraska.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there you go. Let's get to break and come back with more. It's Husker Rewind. We do it every Sunday from 5 till 7. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. We've got him, Brian Munson. Yeah, of Husker Online. We'll talk a little portal recruiting with Brian coming up next.
After a long, hot summer, are you ready for fall? What about your home? Is your heating system ready for cooler temperatures ahead? Be sure and call Bryant for your fall heating check. No matter what brand of equipment you own, Bryant's trained technician will thoroughly clean and inspect your furnace or heat pump to make sure you stay warm and comfortable. Call today to schedule your home heating check. 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. We do whatever it takes.
So, I just got the State Farm Personal Price Plan on my car insurance.
So you told your agent you play the bagpipes for your dog?
What? No, I didn't get that personal. My agent just helped me create an affordable price just for me. Okay, let me show you what I've been working on. Hey, Buster!
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
It takes a great game plan to win a football game each week, and right now, it's time to plan a trip to get a new car at Mullen Motors. Just like on the football field, there's a wall of defense on the way to Mullen Motors. 48th Street is under construction from Layton all the way to Cornhusker Highway. But the lot at Mullen Motors is full of tons of great vehicles to drive home this fall for the ultimate touchdown. Mullen Motors, still open through road construction at 48th and Walker.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
If you struggle with joint pain, there's good news. You don't need surgery to get back to full health. South Point Medical and Aesthetics offers breakthrough non-surgical options for treatment of moderate to severe joint pain. Our patients experience little to no downtime from our procedures, and the results are remarkable. They've had 14 years of successful treatments with patients from 35 states because of an effective word-of-mouth traffic. Learn more about how you can get lasting results for joint pain today at southpointmedical.com or call 402-323-8400. Brown Shoe Fit has all types of shoes for you to excel this fall. Check out their large variety of tennis shoes and dress shoes in brands like Brooks, Hoka, Merrell, On, and many more. Browns has the local professionals to get the proper fit, aided by their high-tech foot scanner by Atrex. Stop by Brown Shoe Fit today, just south of 66th and Q in Lincoln, or check out their options online at brownshoefitco.com.
Allo is turning 20 this year, and we plan to celebrate all year long. Since 2003, Allo has vowed to put customers first and deliver a drastically different experience. No matter where you live, work, or play, we believe you deserve an affordable, secure, and reliable connection. We're proud to have served our businesses and residents with seriously fast fiber optic service for 2 decades. Thank you for trusting Allo as your local internet, phone, and TV provider. Follow us on social media to know about the 20th anniversary celebrations in all our Allo communities.
Summer is winding down, but there's no reason to put your golf clubs away. Double Eagle Golf makes golf leagues and events possible year-round. Sign up today for 9-hole leagues this fall, any day from Monday to Friday, starting on September 25th. Check out their deals on monthly memberships and schedule your Husker watch parties, birthday or bachelor parties, corporate and team outings, or just a good old Saturday with the boys. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street. Call today at 402-742-0140.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Welcoming in now on the Allo VIP line. VIP line brought to you by Allo Fiber, where they understand it, the importance of exceptional service with local heart, is Mr. Brian Munson. Brian, have you heard about what happened at Home Depot at 70th and Highway 2 today?
You know what? My son was just, so here, full disclosure, my son is a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Okay, so he has the same pain that I do?
Game right now.
Yeah.
Mike's a Cowboys fan.
He did tell me about that a little bit. Like, he was reading through Twitter and he was like, something about a tractor. Is that what I heard?
Somebody, it looks like someone stole a skid steer that they used to clean snow in the parking lot and evidently lost their mind and ultimately took the bucket of the skid steer and slammed it into the side of a police cruiser. And
I don't know if I condone that, but I think we've all been very close to losing our minds on some days, though, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's a Cowboys fan.
Well, I was going to say,
Cowboys fan.
the police cruiser is the Cowboys right now, so it's getting like run over by a bobcat. So
I thought they could lose. I didn't think they could lose like that. But
oh my goodness, it's my wife said it correctly. She said Green Bay has just wanted it more today. But I tell you what, Jordan Love, how good has he looked?
Oh
my
yeah.
goodness.
By the way,
he looks incredible.
You live in that area. How will Cowboy fans react this weekend? After this weekend?
Oh, this is pretty predictable.
See, I told you.
There's the window for hiding all sharp objects begins in about 5 minutes. They are going to be devastated. Number one, this was about as good a season as I can recall in the past, I don't know, 10, 12 years. I mean, they were basically, unbeatable at home. So when you get Green Bay, who, in fairness to Green Bay, they have not been very healthy. They have not really had great consistency within their roster. And now it seems like they're kind of peaking at the right time. You got some guys, except for their defensive back, who, again, they lost again tonight to an injury. But ultimately on offense, I think that this is about as healthy as I've seen them all season long. So this is going to be a really, really rough go for Dallas Cowboy fans down here over the next 8 to 10 months.
Brian Munson of Husker Online, our guest. Nebraska had a great week in the portal. They've gone 6 for 6 in this offseason. I think we've already talked about Naor. They got Isaiah Naor, the wide receiver. We were wondering after Dante Dowdell who they might get. The surprise was Micah Mizzou. How do you pronounce it? Mazzulla?
I think it's
Mazzucca.
I think it's Mazza. There's an extra A in the back of the 2 Z's. Mazakua.
Gesundheit.
So I talked to him last year, and he told me, and now I'm trying to reapply that knowledge, and I can't remember that conversation. Mazakua, I think. I don't know.
Gesundheit. But
Gesundheit.
That's the big surprise. How big of a get is that for Nebraska in the offensive line?
It's fairly significant. I mean, I was down in San Antonio a week or two ago, and I was talking to Grant Brix and Gibson Pyle, and obviously those are 2 very talented offensive linemen that Nebraska have gotten in the class, and it's actually a really talented group when you put it all together. Even and then Preston Talamua, Landon Davidson, Jake Peters. Some of those guys are a little unheralded. I know that Nebraska really likes them. You put on their film, you understand why. But when you listen to Brix and Pyle talk last week, Nebraska was really telling 2 true freshmen, come in ready. We have basically an open competition at one of the guard positions. I think it kind of lends itself to the injury with Piper being very significant, and the basically just not likely that he would be back next season. So you kind of mentioned things like that with a couple of true freshmen. You give them the right mindset, want to put that carrot on that string a little bit and put it out in front of them. But when you pick up Micah, you got a guy that number one, was very successful at Baylor. Number two, rolled on into the SEC and was also a very consistent guard, interior, even like a right guard, which I think is what the position is. I think that the people should be looking at is probably in play this spring for Nebraska. So I think Nebraska did a great job going out there and nailing down some really significant needs when it comes to that right guard, that interior line position, a couple of consistent, proven wide receivers. You get that bigger back that still has big playability. And I really felt like with Reimer and Henrich, being gone, at inside linebacker, they needed to get a guy, and they did just that.
Brian Munson joining us here on the Allo VIP line. Real quick, back to the Cowboys, because I called this earlier. Mike McCarthy's going to get fired after this, and Bill Belichick's going to be named head coach by Tuesday, right?
Wow. It's probably it's not an unreasonable thought. I mean,
I was serious.
You should see Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones tonight on television has acted like he is very put out, and this was a very good team all season. And I'm a Bills fan. We clobbered them, but at home they've been tough. Dak has looked really good. CD had a heck of a season, but there's just a real lack of this real peak and valley thing that they got going on. They've lacked consistency as a team, and that's an interesting theory right there. I don't know where Belichick's at with wanting to go ahead and come back and work for one of the most complicated owners in the NFL, but he can make a lot of money, and they've got a very talented roster.
Well, I haven't seen him throw any drinks at anybody in the booth, but he doesn't look happy, to say the least. Somebody's getting fired, whether it's the janitor, somebody is getting fired right away. You mentioned linebacker. It was a big position of need. They lose Reimer, they lose Henrich, and they get Stephen Thompson, who's from Syracuse. He played for Tony White. How big of a pickup is that for Nebraska?
Huge. I mean, this is a guy that started, I think, as a true freshman. I think he started 12 games and then had an ACL or a knee injury. I guess I shouldn't say specifically an ACL. I guess I can kind of fill in the blanks a little bit when you start saying a knee injury and you're gone for a season. However, had a significant knee injury his sophomore year, took a red shirt, and started to come back last season. So, but as a true freshman, played 12 games, started 12 games. I think that's a very significant pickup. That's a guy that not only knows who Tony White is and knows how he coaches, understands 3-3-5, understands playing in that defense. I think that's huge, because I think you still have some guys there that you can roll into linebacker. I'm not sure how I feel about this positionless kind of linebacker term, at the second level. I don't know if that speaks to just not having the right guys on your roster, or if you really feel like you can pull that off. I think that the middle linebacker position and the outside linebacker positions have a little different skill set, and you may have some guys that you can cross over, but I think you have deficiencies when you do that based on whoever is there. But I think Stephon Thompson is a huge get. It's almost like plug and play with another dude that might have been there last season that played a few games for Nebraska anyway, because of just his experience at Syracuse with Tony White.
Hey, Brian, I want to ask you about, let's jump ahead a couple of recruiting classes. Number one offensive tackle in the country, Jackson Cantwell, is going to be in town for Junior Day next weekend. It's actually his third visit to campus, is my understanding. We were teased by Brandon Baker a little bit, rumors about NIL deals, and he's at Texas instead of Oregon or Nebraska. Whatever happened there, who knows? But Jackson Cantwell is a dude that I think is going to play on Sundays. And what can you tell us about him and Nebraska's relationship with him?
Well, I tell you what, too, for all the positives that went along with Brandon Baker, I'm not sure if he was really a true tackle. That was maybe a 6'4" guy. Cantwell is a 6'7.5" guy. 6'7.5", 300 pounds. Really good track and field, thrower to kind of boot. So explosive, individual, really strong. Go out there and check out his Twitter feed. He's got some clips on there of him doing some lifts that'll just, kind of blow you away. Because he's a 16-year-old, kid. I think that this is significant because also his mom is from Nebraska. Lives in Nixa, Missouri, and having, being there for a third time is really a pretty nice indicator about where Nebraska kind of sits out on its list, because Nebraska now joins Georgia and Alabama. This, as you mentioned before, he's the number one offensive tackle in the country. He's the number 3 guy overall in the 2026 class. So I think as far as like comparison wise to how significant this is, or how do you compare him to a Brandon Baker, I would put Cantwell in front of Baker every day of the week. I mean, this is a prototypical left tackle, like you said, a guy that's got, some sort, in some day down the future, he will be playing on Sundays. I mean, that's how good this guy could be.
Breaking story, the Cowboys just scored and got the 2-point conversion. They're within 2 scores. They've got 3 minutes and 25 seconds to come back before somebody gets fired. So there you go. Brian Munson of Husker Online joining us, talking a little recruiting. You wrote about it. Nebraska pursuing still a defensive tackle. I think Dylan Chrisley is his name.
Chrisley.
Yeah, and 6'1", 275. Is this right? He runs a 4.48 40?
I tell you what, you see that and you see the size and you don't believe it, and you put on the film and you go, the dude can move, and he benches 225 40 times. So he's a spark plug. Wow. It's interesting, right? Because I don't know the numbers game for Nebraska right now in their current roster. I think they're well over 100 guys on scholarship. They've got to trim back 15 plus, before like May. So if based on some of the offers, of course, that Dylan has got, this may be, somebody that they're talking about getting an NIL deal to potentially. Somebody else they're going to not keep him, not put him on the 85 initially, give him a chance maybe to get on there eventually, but they've never been able to kind of go out there, and get somebody to kind of play that role of Carlin Jones in the class. Carlin Jones, when he dipped out end of November, really created a huge void in the class. They had found a player, that played interior defensive line, really a 3 technique that could get a lot of pressure rushing the quarterback. And that's exactly what Chrisley can do for you. He is super explosive, has freakish speed, freakish power, not an overly big guy. But if you're really talking about rotating a guy in that's maybe more of a package guy that can get in there and just say, hey, look, we want you to pin your ears back. We're going to go after the quarterback with you in there on passing downs and just rotate you in. That would definitely be somebody that would be very, very interesting to bring in. And I think he's a guy also that you could maybe trunk him out and play him at a 5. He's not really a great 4, but if he's really running that 4-5 kind of time, you can definitely put him out at defensive end as well and get away with that.
Your Bills play tomorrow. The game was canceled today. So
I tell you what, thank goodness for everybody out there in Buffalo and for myself included who would have watched on TV. The snow and the weather have been just amazing to watch on social media.
I would have loved. I wish they would have played. That would have been so good. That would have been so fun. They'd, run a snowplow out there, during an extra point, whatever. That'd have been a lot of fun to watch. But they can't. They're going to play it tomorrow at 4.
3:30, I think.
3:30, okay.
Yeah,
right.
3:30, 4:30 Eastern, I think 3:30 Central. I don't know how this all ends up. I mean, it was still, I think last report, like some people were on Twitter still talking about how bad it was still snowing out there. And I don't know. I hope that this doesn't get in the way of obviously having a very good game. I was impressed with Kansas City last night. I was been impressed with Green Bay tonight. I think the next game, of course, has got some really nice storylines with the 2 quarterbacks and how they kind of swap places. But Buffalo is in a good spot. That 2 seed is really interesting. You can stay at home for the first 2 games. Just gotta win them both and maybe put yourself into the AFC Championship.
There you go. Thank you, Brian Munson. You and Jay Foreman for sure will be watching tomorrow at 3:30. The Bills.
Absolutely. Let's go Bills. Hey, you guys stay warm. Talk to you soon.
Right. Appreciate it. Brian Munson of HuskerOnline.com. A lot of good portal talk there. Who for you was the biggest portal? It was Dowdell,
I
wasn't it?
still say Dowdell, but at the same time, I'm sitting there looking at all of them.
Thompson was a big pickup.
I think all of them are going to be guys that Nebraska fans are going to know their face, their name next year because they're going to be on the field making plays.
Yeah, they all look like, like maybe with the exception of Bly Hill, they all look like they could start right away.
Yeah, true. Naor I think he's going to be in the top 2. Yeah,
position of
he's 2 years off the knee surgery, but I think he's a guy that's definitely going to be in the top 2 of whatever position. So he's going to be either in that first group of wide receivers out or second group. He's going to be a top 6 or 7 guy, though.
I'm probably with you on Dante Dowdell, 6'2", 218, but I mean, that's a crowded running back room. Ramir Johnson, assuming he's back healthy, and Gabe Ervin, if he's back healthy. Emmitt Smith had a really good freshman year. And then you've got Quentin Ives, who they really, really like. But Dowdell has the pedigree, has the resume, I should say.
Like I said, you go back and watch his high school tape, and like the first 4 or 5 plays are 95+ yard runs.
Yeah.
And the little guys, because he's a big dude,
he likes to run into people.
But he runs away from.
But
people.
He can run away from people.
That was what was astounding to me.
Yeah, he's. It's going to be an interesting running back room. The guy that I think is really big for Nebraska is Jamal Banks, and he's had some really good things to say about Dylan Raiola. He says usually when you warm up with a quarterback, it takes 10, 15 minutes. He is throwing 80 yards right away. Like, boom. And Banks is one of those guys that's seen some pretty good quarterbacks in the SEC, played for Wake Forest. I think that's a big, big get because you had a lot of teams in on him. Missouri, I think, wanted him. I think Notre Dame wanted him. Minnesota wanted him. Nebraska got him. Thompson's a big one. Dowdell's a big one. I think Mazuka, or however you pronounce it, is a big one. The offensive lineman, because they had need along the offensive line. We've seen the offensive line.
Well, yeah, I mean, and especially if Ethan Piper doesn't come back and he decides to become a coach, which it sounds like he's going to go that direction. A little bit similar to Nicklin Hames, where you know, for Ethan, you know, put your health first, young man, and if you're healthy enough to come back and play, oh my gosh, would we love to have you back on the field? But I think Ethan Piper is going to be a hell of a coach. I really do.
Yeah, it'd be nice for him to come back, but he probably shouldn't. That was let's face it, that was a gruesome, brutal injury that happened to Ethan. And sometimes you just think, you know what? It's a tough sport. I had fun. I'm done. Good night, everybody.
But if he wants to come back and he's healthy, that's the whole thing. Is whatever
Maybe
him and his doctors and his family decide.
Mid-season, he said, you know what? I want to come back. And he could do it mid-season. I've been practicing, you know, lifting and getting ready, and now I'm ready.
How interesting would that be if he was like a graduate assistant next year, and then you know, whether it was injury or whatever, he just like, you know what,
he would do it. I mean,
probably.
If there's one guy on the team that if you needed him to do it, Ethan Piper would be that guy to do it for sure. Let's get to break and come back with more. It's Husker Rewind. We do it every Sunday. There should be some Sundays like over the New Year or Christmas that we don't do it, but we're usually here and on time. And then the stream collapses, and then we go back on the air. But today, it's been a good show, and we'll do our final segment after this.
Different today. Getting your questions answered, making the right selection, getting the best value, and installed quickly and professionally. Visit OStreetCarpet.com or shop our store. We'll answer all your questions and help you make the right choice. You'll be enjoying your new floor at just days for less than you'd pay elsewhere. Carpet, vinyl, wood, laminate, tile, and area rugs. We've got it all. O Street Carpet. 1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Get all of your favorite restaurants delivered with VenueDelivered.com. One place for ordering delicious appetizers, refreshing salads, hot entrees, fresh sandwiches, and more. From Venue Restaurant and Lounge, Piedmont Bistro, and all Lincoln Good Sense Subs locations. Download our phone app to earn rewards on all of your carryout and delivery orders. Available on Apple and Android, just search for the Pillar Restaurants app. That's the Pillar Restaurants app. Download today.
Warning, this ad will use the F word often, so listen at your own risk. Family fun, fun with friends, freedom from fuel, free Yeti cooler, free driveway delivery. Hey, this is Carl from Nebraska Golf Carts and Priced Right Auto, and we have the all-electric Bentelli Fun Carts, and they are a blast. Plenty of fun colors, and these street-legal carts come in both 4 and 6 passenger. Tell us you heard us on the ticket and get a free Yeti cooler with your purchase. Hurry, supply is limited. Check them out at 1235 West O in Lincoln or NebraskaGolfCarts.com.
You don't think about your roof very often, but you should never take it for granted. Roofing Service Company takes every measure to provide you with the highest quality roofing solution. Whether it's a new roof installation, roof repair, or a re-roofing project, Their overall goal is to provide you with a pleasant experience and a long-lasting roof. If you have a need for siding or gutters, they're your place too. Visit roofingservicecompany.com for more info today.
Repeat after me. I will not touch the fuse box.
I will probably not touch the fuse box.
Sip, do you remember what happened last time?
Yeah, I remember.
What happened?
Half of the city block lost power.
And?
My chicken condo went haywire.
That's right. The chickens ran wild. So what do we do instead?
Call Joe at Ambition Electric and let him handle everything. Look, saved on speed dial.
Ambition Electric, 402-217-3415 or online at ambitionelectric.com.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby, Husker Rewind every Sunday, 5 to 7. It's been a good show.
It really has been. Too bad nobody could hear it.
Yeah, well, we hear it, so we'll know that, when...
We got all kinds of great information we'll share with our friends this week.
There were a few people. I think mom and dad are listening, but it was a good show. Andy Markowski in the first hour was fantastic.
Yeah, Andy's going to be back on whether he likes it or not.
That's right. We are dragging him back on the air because he is really
We might
good.
have to see if he'd be interested in venturing down for an hour.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great to do that right around March.
Yeah,
Selection Sunday.
exactly.
If Nebraska is about to be picked, I would love for him to be on the air. I think they're going to make it. I mean, they're still 13-4. I think there's a lot of room to improve. I think Wednesday's a big game for Nebraska. They got to beat Rutgers. But this is kind of the MO of Nebraska. They don't play well on the road, and then they beat the number one team in the country, Purdue. And then they come back and they lose.
Well, and
they lose again on
the
the road.
The key thing is they're at Rutgers. Rutgers is just simply not playing very good basketball right now. They got run out of the gym by Michigan State today. Boy,
that's
going back to the Iowa had 6 days to prep. Nebraska had 2. So Nebraska
and Iowa's won 5 of their last 6.
Yeah, but going into Rutgers is going to have Monday and Tuesday to prep, and Nebraska had 4 days versus those 2 because they played on Friday. So, does that benefit Nebraska heading into Piscataway on Wednesday night? I think it does, and I still think that these next 2 games for Nebraska against Rutgers and Piscataway, and then at home against Northwestern next Saturday. Danny Nee back in the building, going to be awesome. But those are 2 must-wins, I think, for Fred Hoiberg and the team.
Yeah, I'm excited to have Danny Nee come back for Northwestern on the 20th. Let's talk a little Michigan football because the dominoes are starting to fall in the coaching world of college football. They have, at least at Alabama, where Kalen DeBoer took that gig. Now we're wondering about Michigan because Michigan, J.J. McCarthy today announced that he's entering the NFL draft along with Blake Corum. That tells me that both those guys know that Jim Harbaugh's not coming back, right?
I kind of get that, yeah.
Like he sat down in the office, said, you know what? He's smoking a cigar. He's saying, who has it better than us? Like, is that, by the way, the dumbest saying ever? Who has it better than us? That he says that all the time. And they go, we did, nobody. I don't know. He must have got it from Jack or something, or John. It sounds like something that Jack probably came up with. But he was saying that, who has it better than us? Nobody, coach. By the way, I'm going to the NFL.
By the way, I'm going to go cheat in the NFL. So
that's right. And McCarthy, I don't think is a first-round draft pick. I think some mock drafts have him in the first round, but he's mostly a third, fourth-round guy, I think.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be successful in the NFL.
Blake Corum, I don't know, because running backs are hard to grade going to the NFL. They're a dime a dozen, and nobody really values them anymore.
Which I think is so astounding because, I don't get it. I mean, if you've got a solid run game and you got a great running back, i.e. Christian McCaffrey, and I get it, he's the best in the game right now. But you can build an entire offense around a running back. You're only going to get 5 or 6 years out of him before you're going to start getting some wear and tear. But maybe that's part of the reason. We were talking to Ben earlier, and I'm like, I don't really follow the NFL that much anymore. I mean, I'll watch a game or two, and it's bad, but I like old school smash mouth football, and that's not what the NFL is today.
No.
It's
well, Matt Rule has mentioned the 49ers. They do it a little bit. That he wants to copy the 49ers. I think he's also mentioned, by the way, Michigan as a team that he wouldn't mind copying. I wouldn't mind Nebraska going back to that type of football. Nebraska smash mouth in the 90s was more option with a lot of concepts that you see from Michigan in the run game. But I think Dylan Raiola throwing a lot of screen passes. Obviously, he's not an option quarterback. You can't do some of the stuff you do with J.J. McCarthy with Dylan Raiola. But you can't throw to the tight ends a lot. You can run. You can throw a couple more tight ends out there. You can throw a fullback out there. I think that if Matt Rule gets what he wants, he's going to run the football and have a really efficient passer. And
yeah,
and that's what J.J. McCarthy did.
The big question for me is who's going to coach Dylan Raiola? Because now, is it going to be Dana Holgerson? Does he, want to come in and do just that? Be a passing game coordinator? I don't know. Or was that a conversation of just in case Matt Rule's first choice doesn't work out and that first choice is still coaching right now in the NFL?
Yeah.
Now, I know what we've heard is that Jake Peetz is not that guy. He was initially last year, it sounds like, but it didn't work out, which is what brought Bob Wager to Nebraska and then ultimately out of Nebraska, and Josh Martin into the tight end position coach and Satterfield to quarterbacks. But that's the other thing I wonder is there a guy in the NFL right now that's still coaching that Rule has as a first choice?
Or maybe there's somebody from college. Maybe he's waiting for another domino like Michigan to see what they do with their coaching staff. If they hire somebody else,
true.
Can he take somebody off that coaching staff or somebody else? I would imagine there's more dominoes in college football that will fall.
Oh,
or is Michigan the last one?
With what's available right now, I think Michigan's probably the last one.
It's very possible he's waiting for the NFL playoffs to conclude.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, I mean, you wait for the end. If he's looking at a quarterback coach and he preaches the NFL, hey, if you're a quarterback, we have a certain way. He had that whole speech about we have a certain way that we want to coach quarterbacks and we want to get them to the NFL and we want to do it the Nebraska way. And we don't want to take these guys that are just mercenaries. We want to train them our way. And maybe that means you take an NFL guy that's a quarterback coach that's already in the NFL.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out, there's a lot of different podcasts and some Twitter handles that do a great job breaking some stories and, talking Nebraska football. There really are. I'm not going to name one because I'll forget to name one or two others that I follow that I think are fantastic. But one of them is always on top of the conspiracy theories of who players are following is like a precursor to what's going to happen. So I'm going to dive into that conspiracy theory thought right now. And I'm going to say that Matt Rule made the comment that they wanted to play like San Francisco, like the 49ers. And his number one target for a quarterback's coach is on the 49ers staff right now. I have no idea who it would be, but it's just one of those weird little, hey,
Remember when Rathman was there all those years as a running backs coach? I always thought Nebraska, the rumor was always, let's go get Rathman. Because he was one of the better coaches, one of the better assistant coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, he truly was. I mean,
that guy had a long NFL. I mean, he obviously won Super Bowls with Montana and Craig. Great fullback and a great receiving fullback along with being a blocker. But he was also a really good coach. And there were rumors that Nebraska might take him.
Yeah. So, hey, if Ben's listening, I think one of the rock stars on Sunday evenings, Ricky Simmons, is trying to get in the building. But I don't know. I don't know if Ben's not listening. So
one of the great wingbacks of all time in Nebraska football.
Yeah, I know. And he's been hanging out with probably the greatest running back. Top two are LP and Mike Rozier. And I know Rozier's been back in town.
Who would I take? I would take, if you could combine Rozier's ability to make people miss with Amon's speed, that's the greatest running back of all time.
Oh, I agree.
Amon had incredible speed and power.
Yeah.
And he played a long time
I
in the
threw
NBA.
LP in there just because I think LP was at a level that had he had things work right with him.
The problem with LP was
I get it. But he was kind of that, I don't know, man.
He ran angry.
That's a wicked top three. How about that? Rozier, LP, and Amon. Whew.
Yeah, those are pretty good places to start if you're building a running back. Hopefully Nebraska gets back to running back U. I mean, that was one of the things they sold Dante Dowdell on.
Yeah.
Hey, we were once, believe it or not, running back U.
Yeah.
Heck, we don't even need those guys necessarily. I would settle for Amir or Rex right now.
Well, give me Divino Zigbo.
Right?
Can you imagine Divino Zigbo his senior year in Matt Rule's offense? I think like if he would have been here this last year and they would have fed him the ball as opposed to handing it off to either Jeff Sims or Harburg 19 times a game. They're not handing it off, but letting them carry the ball 19 times a game. If they would have used Ozigbo, I mean, holy smokes.
He was great.
He would have had 1,200 yards.
He was the last 1,000-yard rusher that Nebraska had.
Yeah.
It's been that long. Divine Zigbo. Is he still on a practice squad somewhere in the league? He was.
I don't remember.
I don't know where he is right
I thought
now.
earlier this year he had made a practice squad and was actually activated for a game or two, but I don't know where he's at now.
Cowboys fall. They lose to the Packers, and somebody's getting fired.
Yep.
And Mike hopes it's Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, and so I was checking Twitter earlier, and one of our good friends of the show, Dirk Chatlin, had tweeted a couple of times, one shot on my TV screen of Jerry Jones is worth 1 million shots of Taylor Swift.
That is true.
Because of his angst and anger and frustration with what was going on
Put
today.
a Kelsey uniform on him and let him dance around.
Yeah, put a Dak uniform on him since Dak threw like 3 picks today. So,
Mike, it's been fun. We'll do the same show next week. Well, different show, but the same time.
I think that's a really good idea. We'll just have a bunch of different topics to talk about.
Yeah, that'll be great. We do it every Sunday. It's called Husker Rewind. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
See you.
Join Planet Fitness now and get the PF Black Card for only $24.99 a month. You'll enjoy an upgraded experience with tons of perks.
Like